All right, let's jump straight into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking the anatomy of a truly prolific open-source champion. We are looking at the massive digital footprint of a developer known across the whole community as Manwar. If you've ever found yourself wondering, what it actually takes to sustain decades of high-level contributions to the very tools that power our digital world, well, you're absolutely in the right place.
So, let's kick things off with a huge question. Who is the most prolific CPAN contributor in recent years? Now, if you're in the Perl ecosystem, you already know CPAN is literally the lifeblood of your modules and software. And the answer to that question? It lies in the staggering output of Mohammad Sajid Anwar. He's an author, contributor, editor, speaker, founder. Honestly, the sheer volume of his work has fundamentally shaped the developer landscape.
What's really cool is how the people who actually work with him validate his technical brilliance right out of the gate. They don't just call him a solid coder, they describe him as the quiet genius that sits in the corner. One coworker even mentioned how he'd inherit these nasty, tangled legacy codebases and just systematically fix them. He wouldn't rest until the root cause was completely gone. And honestly, that's the exact mindset of an open-source champion.
Here is the game plan for our explainer today. We'll cover 1. The quiet genius, 2. Decades of development, 3. The open source engine, 4. Building the community, and finally, 5. A developer's legacy.
Section 1. The quiet genius, establishing credibility. Let's see how this builds the profile of a developer who spent his life tackling the hardest problems behind the scenes. His colleagues paint this picture of a guy who just gets the job done. No fuss, just delivering great code. We're talking about a developer who maintained complex risk reporting platforms at SunGard and streamlined workflow processes on systems like NBOSS, totally optimizing their business operations. He's repeatedly described as a total pleasure to work with, someone who always steps up to help teammates navigate tricky SMS subsystems or complex object-oriented modules.
And the ultimate industry nod for all this quiet, relentless dedication? That came in 2022 when Mohammad was named a White Camel awardee. For those who don't know, that's a highly prestigious Perl Community Award. It perfectly reflects his core philosophy: helping others, fixing what's broken, and giving back to the ecosystem without ever demanding the spotlight.
Moving on to Section 2, Decades of Development, the Professional Journey. The crucial thing to remember here is his open source work doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It runs perfectly parallel to a rigorous, decades-long professional career. His career evolution literally spans multiple continents and technological eras. He started back in 1998 in Mumbai, building web apps with Perl and MySQL. Then he moved to the UK, working in Marlow, Watford, and eventually establishing himself in London. Over the years, he evolved from a software engineer building SMS systems to a systems developer at NTT Europe, all the way to a senior Perl developer at Olio Ltd, maintaining some seriously complex client-facing web apps. This contrast is just fascinating. You've got a developer mastering high-stakes enterprise systems by day and acting as an open-source titan by night. Take his time at ODL Securities, for example. He was maintaining real-time trading applications hooked up to cross-border trading systems. That is incredibly high-pressure stuff, but he took that exact same corporate rigor and applied it directly to his night work, building robust, globally available open-source tools. Section 3. The Open Source Engine, Data as Spectacle. Let's dive right into the sheer volume of his output, because his open source engine is absolutely wild to see. I want you to just pause and process this number for a second. 1,000. This represents a monumental personal milestone he hit in July 2017, his 1,000th consecutive day releasing distributions to CPAN. That's almost 3 years without missing a single day. Talk about discipline. And to celebrate, he didn't take a day off. No way. He released 4 new distributions on that exact day, including these really complex calendar and date mapping modules. But it's not just Perl modules he's pushing out. He is consistently driving global code improvements through relentless participation in community events year after year. Just look at the 24 pull request challenge. In 2016 alone, he submitted 66 pull requests. He's super active in Hacktoberfest, the Pull Request Club, and has even built a dedicated Patreon supporter base. It just goes to show how much the community relies on his continuous output. What's truly fascinating, though, is his endless technical curiosity. If you look at his recent blog posts and tutorials from 2025 and 2026, he freely bounces across the entire modern tech stack. Yes, he's writing about new lexical methods in Perl, but he's also exploring AWS DynamoDB and Bedrock. He's digging deep into Docker volumes and secrets and sharing advanced Git commands like git bisect and git refs. He doesn't stagnate. He constantly evolves.
Section 4. Building the community beyond the code. Let's see how his work builds into an ecosystem of mentorship and leadership. Because a true open source champion doesn't just write code, right? They build a community.
A brilliant example of his quirky, highly impactful community work is MapTube. This is a lightweight routing framework he initially released way back in 2010 to map out subway systems for cities worldwide. Fast forward to today, and over 181 public releases later, it covers 41 different transit maps. We're talking London, Tokyo, New York, Delhi. It's such a fun, fantastic project that actually gets other developers involved in mapping their own local cities and contributing to the code.
He also frequently speaks at events like the London Perl Workshop, detailing this exact journey. He maps out the steps from being someone who just uses open source tools, to someone who contributes to them, and finally, to someone who stands on a global stage teaching others. He gave talks on this in 2016 and 2018, actively pulling the ladder down so others can climb up behind him.
His outreach is just exceptional. Through initiatives like founding the Weekly Challenge, he provides a consistent arena for Perl and Raku developers to really test their skills and learn from one another. Combine that with his decade-long streaks speaking at the London Perl Workshop and attending the Perl Toolchain Summit in 2025, and you see a leader who is physically and virtually showing up for his community.
Which brings us to Section 5, a developer's legacy, the continuous learner. The crucial question here is what makes this level of contribution sustainable over several decades? I mean, how does one actually avoid burnout?
Well, his legacy is rooted in continuous, fearless learning. Even deep into his career, looking at his work through 2025 and 2026, he is actively exploring everything. He's giving talks on design patterns in modern Perl, while simultaneously recreating complex CVE vulnerabilities using Docker containers, literally just to understand how they work. He plays with LocalStack to master AWS S3 encryption. He learns it, and then he immediately turns around and documents it so we can learn it too.
Ultimately, behind the thousands of commits, the hundreds of releases, and the deep dives into AWS and Docker is a foundational desire to just help people fix things. Like his colleague perfectly stated, he doesn't rest until the cause of the problem is completely removed. That, right there, is the true anatomy of a quiet genius.
I want to leave you with this provocative thought today. Looking at Manwar's journey from an engineer in Mumbai to a globally recognized open-source champion, how are you contributing to the tools you use every single day? Look, you don't have to hit 1,000 consecutive days of commits, but how can you step up and become a contributor, a teacher, or a champion in your own tech community today? Something to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.